If you've ever been quietly targeted at work, underestimated, or made the subject of harmless jokes, then you already know how satisfying this story is going to be. So hit that like button and settle in, because sometimes the calmest person in the room delivers the most unforgettable revenge. And trust me, this one is worth the wait. 10 years ago, I became one of the few female partners at a prestigious law firm. And let me tell you something most people won't admit. When you're a woman in a leadership role, you don't just have to succeed, you have to succeed flawlessly. One mistake becomes your identity. One weakness becomes everyone's whisper. So I worked harder than anyone. Later nights, tougher cases, higher expectations, and when I finally earned my seat at that long mahogany table, I promised myself one thing. No one would ever make me feel like I didn't belong there. I just didn't realize the challenge would come from someone sitting only 10 feet away. Let's call him Chad. You know the type instantly. Perfect hair, perfect suits, perfect office, suspiciously perfect. His desk was so clean it looked untouched, like work itself avoided landing on it. Meanwhile, my office looked very different. Stacks of files, sticky notes, organized chaos. But here's what nobody understood. I wasn't disorganized. My brain simply worked faster than neat rows ever could. Ask me for a document and I could grab it in seconds. Efficiency doesn't always look pretty. But Chad disagreed. And soon, he made sure everyone knew it. It started small. A comment during a meeting. Careful in her office, those paper stacks might qualify as a safety hazard. Light laughter, professional laughter, the kind people use when they don't want tension. I smiled and replied calmly, "If a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, what then is an empty desk a sign of?" The room laughed harder, but Chad didn't. And in that moment, I saw it. That flicker behind his eyes. Not humor, not friendliness, control. He didn't like losing the room, especially to me. Then came the holiday party. Music humming, glasses clinking, careers quietly being judged over cocktails, and right on cue, Chad lifted his drink, gestured toward me, and said, "I'm thinking of hiring her a professional organizer for Christmas." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, because that's what you do in rooms like that. But inside, something hardened. Here's the truth most professionals learn too late. Humiliation rarely arrives as aggression. It arrives disguised as humor, and if you object, you're the problem. So I stayed calm, but I started paying attention, because people who enjoy small embarrassments usually escalate, and Chad did. The morning I saw my blinds open, something shifted. I stood frozen in my doorway. My desk looked worse from the hallway, chaotic, overwhelming, exposed, like someone had pulled back a curtain without permission. I closed them, told myself it was nothing. But when it happened again, and again, that quiet voice in my head spoke up. This is intentional. And suddenly my commute felt different, shorter, tenser, like I was walking into a test I hadn't agreed to take. So I checked the other offices. Closed. Every single one. Except mine. And then it hit me. Who arrived earlier than anyone else? Chad? Of course. Now I had two options. Confront him or outthink him. And if there's one thing people underestimate about quiet professionals, it's how strategic we can be. Because this wasn't about blinds anymore. It was about respect. And I was done donating mine for free. Weeks later, buried in old firm archives, I found something unexpected. A photo from a company retreat. And there he was, Chad, backwards baseball cap, flexing beside a coworker? Except the flex? Let's just say it wasn't intimidating. He looked young, goofy, almost unrecognizable compared to the polished authority he projected now. I stared at that photo for a long moment. Then I smiled, slowly, because in that instant, the entire strategy wrote itself, and I knew exactly how this story was going to end. I printed the photo, large, bright, impossible to ignore. Then I made copies. On the back, I wrote, "Please do not open my blinds. I prefer them closed. If you remove this photo, I will replace it." That evening, I taped it to the blinds. Picture facing outward once opened. Note, facing inward, meaning only one person would ever see the warning. But if he ignored it, the whole firm would see backward cap Chad. Game over. And the best part? He could avoid it entirely. All he had to do was leave me alone. The next morning, my heartbeat echoed in my ears as I walked down the hallway. Blinds closed. Interesting. I stepped inside. The photo was gone. A tiny piece of tape hung where it had been. He saw it. He panicked. And most importantly, he didn't open the blinds. I nearly laughed out loud, but I wasn't done yet. That night, I taped up another copy. No loopholes, no misunderstandings, just a very clear boundary. The following morning, gone again, blinds still shut, and from that day forward, they stayed that way. But something else disappeared too. The jokes, the comments, the subtle digs, all gone. Just quiet professionalism. For the first time since I made partner, Chad treated me like an equal. Not because I argued, not because I demanded it, but because I made the cost of disrespect higher than the reward. There is a unique satisfaction in winning without ever raising your voice. No meetings, no accusations, no drama, just a silent correction. Every morning, Chad faced a choice: open the blinds and risk humiliating himself, or leave them closed and accept defeat. He chose wisely, and I learned something that year I've never forgotten. Confidence doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it simply sets a boundary and lets others realize exactly where the line is. Workplaces often look polished on the surface, but underneath, they're ecosystems of power, perception, and respect. And respect is rarely handed to you. It's established, quietly, strategically, unapologetically. If this story made you smile, hit that like button and tell me, was this genius or gloriously petty? And subscribe for more stories that prove one thing: never underestimate the calm woman in the room. Because while everyone else is busy talking, she's already 3 moves ahead.